Here we go. So let me know. You can all see that. Yes, perfect. So I will just start with noting that I'm a PhD candidate in UCD School, but I'm working as a teaching assistant in DCU School of Law and Government, and I worked on this project with the current head of school, Kenneth McDonough. So the two of us coordinated this fantastic project, which gave us some really interesting results that I hope to share with you today. So the
Jelena, would you like to put the full screen mode, maybe?
Oh, sorry,
that's okay. That's okay.
There we go. Yeah, should be. Yeah, can you see it?
Perfect.
Great, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to focus today on some of the tools and strategies that have been found successful by the first year students that we have engaged within this project. So first of all, the overall title of the project is Promoting Student Engagement in Large Class Environments, and Anne-Marie has immensely helped me with both literature review and the other projects that she worked on. So thank you again, Anne-Marie, for helping with providing some of the background work on this and the ongoing work. Main objective of the project itself was to look at these teaching strategies and see which ones were the most effective ones for student engagement on different levels. Namely, these levels were the subject matter of the course, the engagement with their peers, and the engagement with the institution itself. Just to note that this project was funded by the National Forum for the Enhancement of Teaching and Learning in Higher Education and has been finalized now. So on the basis of 3 research questions, we had some very interesting results. Just to note, the questions were mainly, again, related to the practices and strategies. And just in order to look at the engagement within a large classroom, in this case, it was mainly observed in the context of online large classroom presentations and engagement. So I won't go into detail on every slide. I'm conscious of the time, but just to note a few important details was that our methodology was based on looking at the literature review that, again, Anne-Marie helped me immensely with, looking at the syllabi of 14 modules, which were covered, covering the School of Law and Government in the social science faculty and the business school as well, and looking at the practices presented on the loop pages that all of the module coordinators used. So I conducted several focus groups and a very large student survey across these 14 modules. And some of the results and recommendations are the following. So some of the key findings that we found was that, of course, due to the nature of 2020-2021 teaching, one of the most important things was, of course, face-to-face teaching. So that was both for the first year students and other students, second and third year students. So that was for them the key to better student engagement for many different reasons, which I'll mention in a second. However, the important part as well of the project findings was the motivation was there for the large classroom engagement, which was something that we found very important to note. So we noted in our findings that if the 40% of students are very or extremely motivated to engage in these large classes, then all the other issues that come with engagement can be, so to say, surpassed. So we found that this was one of the most important findings of it, which then we can build on better practices. Another interesting finding was the most efficient and engaging teaching method that the students found, both first year and other students, were this hybrid style of teaching where the module coordinators were using both online, pre-recorded or recorded or live sessions and face-to-face tools, and those tools varied as well. Some of the other key findings, of course, included the hybrids, obviously the hybrid teaching lectures. And then, of course, the relevance of tutorials that most of the students found, almost 55% of the students found that they were even more important than the lectures themselves. So kind of a smaller spin-off of lectures. And of course, the back on campus kind of aspect of being in person was something that they found immensely important. So as I mentioned, we conducted several focus groups. I will not go into detail on all of them. Just as one of the issues that I would like to flag was the inability to gather more than a certain number of students. And we found that the reason for this was, again, the online presence and expectation from students due to the fact that they had everything online. So when it came to focus groups, they were mainly represented by first-year students. Around 72% of students were first-year students, whereas the student survey conducted within 2 months also had it had 72% of first-year students. So both were between 72 and 73% first-year students. Therefore, these results mainly reflect online-based teaching in large class modules. So let me just, apologies. So some of the recommendations that were presented by the students related to kind of the overarching, I just can't see this. Let me just move this. Overarching module organization and coordination, then the during module presentation and post lecture support. Just a few factors that these students found relevant were that some of the common questions were never really addressed in the lectures, and that they thought that the module coordinators could certainly provide some resources to address these common issues that a lot of students found important. Then there were obviously some suggestions in relation to tutorials, whether they were in person or in online forums, where better organization would certainly be more helpful. And I think the presenters before me mentioned the lack of breakout room efficiency. So this was certainly something that it seemed that module coordinators needed to improve to an extent. Perhaps certain weekly tasks which would engage students to keep on staying on top of the content that they were covering within their lectures, but something that would have a bit more interesting and perhaps day-to-day content that they could relate to rather than just something that is presented within the class itself. And then another thing that they highly valued was kind of a merit-based marking of group exercises. So despite the fact that they did find interaction with peers very important, they did think that group exercises were not graded on the merits, or were not merit-based. So I won't go into all of these because there might be time running out, but just one or two perhaps that will be important for all the module coordinators and lecturers out there would be that any kind of online platform would need to be very, very clearly outlined and presented. A lot of students, and I will obviously provide you a link with the report where you can find the exact statistics, but majority of students, it was 72% as well, funnily enough, found that the presentation of Loop pages or Moodle pages or Blackboard pages, anything that any university uses, were very messy, very unclear, were not similar to the ones of other module coordinators. So they found that some kind of systematization of these pages would be much clearer for them and would make it easier for them to engage in such a wealth of information that is out there. So,
1 minute.
Perfect. So just within the lecture engagement, some of the things that might be important for you to see would be the short recap of the previous lecture, which was a valued contribution by some of the module coordinators, using voting or poll or survey tool to ensure the interaction, which will of course be anonymous, including the short unmarked quizzes that would engage them throughout the lectures. And then certainly post-lecture support were some of the suggestions. I was also very pleasantly surprised because I never thought about it as well. And some of my colleagues that I discussed this with were some of the frequently updated platform for the ongoing Q&As, which would then allow everyone to access this all the time, but it will be updated with questions that the students themselves would add throughout the class, the module, and then perhaps also a short, of course, anonymous feedback survey, but not only at the end of the module, but specifically during / mid module time, which would provide them with some kind of good background to, good feedback on what might be improved for the next time. So just sorry again for taking so much time. And just to mention that this publication of the report will be hopefully done over the next few weeks, where we will include dissemination of the toolkit for our colleagues, and then some other recommendations and linkages to the ongoing and future projects. Thank you very much for your time, and apologies for taking lecture.